Let's talk to the doc, Dr. Tim McKnight in studio, and always presented by our friends at Mako's Market and Pharmacy in downtown Uricksville. Come in and talk to the pharmacists. They are very knowledgeable. They can help you out and all focused on your health. We say good morning to Dr. McKnight. How are you?
Good morning, Steve. I'm doing great.
Getting ready for the big game Sunday?
The big game for me was a few weeks ago when Ohio State played. So this one is I'll have to watch it for the commercials and see who wins. But
I'm kind of excited about these two teams because we get new blood. It's New England for the first time in a row, and so that'll be fun. And I saw this, read this earlier this morning. I had no idea that there was a medical term for this. Apparently, during the game across the country, emergency rooms are pretty quiet. And then when the game's over, everybody heads to the ER. They call it Super Bowl syndrome.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah. The same thing happens on major holidays, Christmas.
Wow.
Christmas morning, there's nobody in the emergency room.
So you hold off despite the pain and whatever's going on until the celebration's over. That's kind of crazy, but I had no idea there was such a thing as a Super Bowl syndrome, but it is there, real.
I don't know if that's good or bad, It's kind of interesting, though, isn't it?
Well, I guess it's nice for the ER people that they can prepare. They can look at the TV and say, "Oh, the game's over. Here we go."
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy that people would do that. Want to talk this morning about something that we've been hearing a lot about, and I got a news release from the Ohio Department of Health. So this thing is really cranking up, and I'm guessing that if we receive this, then you guys have all been talking about this, and that is the coronavirus that is happening. Started in China, apparently, right?
Yeah, started in China, I think, late last year, December, November, something like that last year. And it started in a city in China called Wuhan with 11 million residents.
Wow, that's a big city.
Yeah, it's a big city. I think there's a lot of big cities in China as far as population goes. But that's apparently where it started. And it's spread pretty quickly. It's pretty contagious.
The symptoms for something like this is a respiratory type of a symptom. So
it's lower respiratory. So it's cough, it's wheezing, it's fever, and sometimes pneumonia.
And I'm going to go to the start of this. What creates a situation like this?
Well, there are, just like people and ethnicities in humans, there are ethnicities in viruses, except viruses have been here much longer. So we have this particular strand of viruses, the coronavirus, but within that there's a specific species that's causing this. And so you just look at, one ethnic group and you follow them over time. There's a lot of different appearances of people in a particular family. Same thing happens with viruses. They change over time. So this particular virus has recently mutated, and when it mutates, our immune system can't recognize it, and we become sick from it.
Right.
So a virus is pretty interesting, though, because there's not really much to it. It's something that replicates, either DNA or RNA that replicates, and a protein coat around it. That's all it is. It's very small. And what we normally do when we see these viruses is our immune system recognizes the coat that it's encased in and says, I know what that is, that's bad, we're going to destroy it. In this case, that coat has changed and our immune system can't recognize it, so all it does is it injects itself into a cell, and that replicating material gets into our nucleus and takes over the replication process until there's so many viruses in a cell, it causes the cell to just rupture, and it leaks this stuff everywhere, and it infects more cells.
So, if I understand this correctly, scientifically, it's easy to figure out what the makeup is of this particular virus. Does that mean the people in the labs are trying to create something to destroy it, or how does that work? I mean, do we come up with an immune way to give us like a vaccine?
Yeah, we're trying to understand how it's changed, how it's mutated, and so we have tests that can do that. But the problem is our immune systems haven't seen this particular virus.
Right.
So we can become infected by it. But the key is it's not any of us can become infected by this particular virus, but those that are most susceptible are the ones that have the weakest immune systems.
Sure.
So the inability to really detect it early and destroy it.
So this first detected in this city in China, and if you've seen the news recently, you see that they have tried to isolate these people. I mean, even keeping people from movie theaters and public events and things like that. Is that a key to slowing this down, or is there still ways it's going to get out there? And I know we have had a couple of cases of this already appear here in the United States.
Yeah, I think they even closed flights from Beijing. So we're trying to keep it confined, number one. And, number two, we always need to remember how it's transmitted. It's respiratory droplets. Most of these are. And so we need to be careful. And I think that's one of the keys to why this is so common in countries where there's so many people in small confined areas. It's easily spread there.
Sure.
So for us, it's the same for the influenza virus. It's wash your hands. Be careful of the doorknob you touch or the cart you push at the store, because a lot of hands have been there.
Yes.
And if those hands aren't clean, it can be transmitted.
And you think about, at least in my mind, I think about China, and I think about the U.S. We have grocery stores where everything is sealed in plastic and in cases and things like that. They've got a lot of open air markets and places like that. That would, to me, seem much easier to get something like this to spread.
Yes, and I'm not a virologist. I don't specialize in this, and my limited understanding is we believe that this virus initially was in bats, and it was transmitted from bats to I think they call them civets. Civets are these animals with short legs, long tails, and carnivorous. So like a badger or a skunk or these type of animals, and there's a lot of those in the Far East. So a lot of these markets in the Far East are selling fish and wild animals that we think were infected with the virus, and then humans eat it and they become infected from it.
Very frightening.
So, yeah, it's pretty scary.
At this point, I mean, we've heard that they've had over close to 1,000 people now that are ill with this, but 25 or more have actually died from it.
Yes.
And then again, I know there's been a couple of cases reported in the U.S. Can they trace that directly to somebody that was in China? Is that how it got here?
Well, that's what the CDC tries to do, is to understand where it's come from and where it might be spreading from. But yeah, and that's why airports and airplanes are so key in this, because an airplane, there's a lot of people that go in a given airplane on any given day, and those viruses, they try to keep those viruses to a minimum with the way they clean the airplanes. But there's people coughing in those planes, and you're on a trans-Pacific flight. So yes, we try to trace where it's coming from and try to keep it confined in that given area.
And we had this back in 2003 with the SARS virus was out there. I mean, so we've dealt with situations like this before.
Right.
Does it become in the medical profession? I mean, people are hearing this and seeing it on the news over and over again. Do they come into our doctor's offices immediately thinking, I've got the coronavirus? I mean, is everybody, trying to hope that they haven't picked this up? I mean, that is the purpose of
the more you see it on the news, the more it's in people's minds here, especially when they see that we're seeing it in the United States. And so if it becomes more prevalent here, then that's something that we see translated in the office with concerns. But so far we haven't seen a major outbreak here.
Sure.
And they think this will not spread as widespread as the 2003 virus did.
So in China, they've locked down the city for the most part, and they're trying to contain it. The red flag obviously is up there.
Right.
Are we going to reach a point where these people are getting well again, or it starts to subside, and then the caution sign is taken down a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that's the idea. And again, it's isolating, confining people. It's limiting the spread by good hand washing, good hygiene techniques.
Sure.
And then when someone gets infected, we have to be careful in healthcare industry. But it's primarily supporting the immune system. Some of these people will, just like with influenza, you get the virus and then get a secondary infection. But even the virus alone can overwhelm the respiratory system and cause you to die from respiratory failure.
Good advice. Coronavirus, again, we're hearing a lot about it. And as of right now, again, the Ohio Department of Health is declaring it what they said is an immediately reportable disease. That was their wording on this. So just something, I guess, to put in our awareness.
Right, exactly.
Right. Week 4 already?
Week 4, yes.
Of Fit for Life tonight. Where are we at on topics?
Tonight's topic will be to review blood work and to talk about the disease, the foods that cause many of our chronic diseases or contribute to it, and then we'll show people how that disease translates in the body. We'll show them what it looks like.
Yeah, pretty exciting. You're on the road for this session of Fit for Life. This is at the hospice location,
right?
And very excited, enthusiastic bunch.
It is a great group. The people at hospice are wonderful, and those that are just in the community in the class, they're excited. We're seeing some really great things happen already. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but one of our participants did the 24-hour fast. I was asking, how's everybody doing with that? Was that harder than you thought? She said, I did a 3-day fast.
What?
And I said, wow, were you hungry? Were you weak? Did you have a headache? She said, no, I wasn't really hungry, and that week she lost 8 pounds.
Holy cow.
So she was real excited.
I mean, is that, you talk about the 24-hour fast, but don't go on a hunger strike with this thing. I mean, you don't want to. I mean, 3 days sounds a little scary to me.
Of course, you're still drinking water or drinking something non-caloric, but the fact that she wasn't hungry and didn't feel awful with it, we're capable of going without food. We just think we are.
Sure. All right. I'm hungry just thinking about it.
Yeah, my stomach just growled.
Exactly. Dr. Tim McKnight, Talk to the Doc. Always appreciate catching up with you, and we'll do it again next Tuesday morning.
Great. Thanks.
Always presented by our friends at Mako's Market and Pharmacy, 240 East 3rd Street, downtown Uricksville. Come in and talk to the staff at Mako's Pharmacy. They are very knowledgeable to help you with your health and wellness. It is 8:43, Big Hits, WBTC.